It took him 7 years. Yours says, I will build my bayat, my house, that it must offer up the same things that house was built to offer up. So he sends the 7 ruachim, the 7 spirits of Yah, to build up this most kadosh house to offer up unto him that which is necessary to acknowledge his power and his place in the spiritual realm, that he is the Most High. Because the nations offer up unto their gods. We as the people of Yah, I want to read this before I go farther. In the book of Tphillah, 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 5. It took Solomon 7 years to build the house of Yah, 13 years to build his own bayats. 7 years. The perfection of the house was perfect. And Yah has sent by the power of the Ruach HaKodesh, the 7 Ruachim, the 7 spirits, the Ruach of the fear of Yah, the Ruach of understanding, the Ruach of wisdom. He has sent that Ruach of knowledge. He has sent that on to Yisrael to complete the house, to make the house perfect, that it may, as Solomon, offer up the gifts that were beyond the offerings, that were beyond expressive terminology. Kephah says, you also, Yisrael, you also, as lively stones. The stones of David, they were stones made of matter. We have been made by the matter of the composition of our lives. It is compositive by the living power of Torah, the life of Yah in Yeshua. We are not dead stones, but we are living stones. That's what we are to be, living stones. We are the living stones of Almighty Yah. We are the living stones of Yah, we are built up into a spiritual bayat, a spiritual house. I want you to understand this because I want to read when Solomon began to pray unto Yah and what was offered and what came first, what was secondary, and above all, what was last. First of all, that we are the lively stone of Yah. We live by the power of his command, by his ruach. And we are built up a spiritual bayat, a spiritual house. We are a chadosh priesthood, and we are the elect called out, just like Levi, for one purpose, to offer up spiritual sacrifices. The things that were done by the offering of the bullocks and the turtle doves and all of that, as I said to us, that has not been eradicated. It is not done away with. Because we will not allow the chief cornerstone to be laid in our lives, then there is no power of Tphillah. We don't know how to intercede. We don't know how to interact with Yah, because it begins with the offering of the spiritual sacrifices, and that which is spiritual, it has the life of Yah in it. And if there is no power of the living substance, and it begins with the dynamics of the testimony, the eduth, the testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach. Because everything that Yeshua did, it was in compliance with the ordinance of the Torah of Yah. And if we don't have that testimony, that which complies with the ordinance of Yah, we have no testimony at all. We have been taught that we have a testimony, quote, I thank God for saving me. I thank God for my house and my children. I thank God for everything. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Unquote. We were trained that way. We were taught that. We believe that, but it is wrong. It must be the edoth. It must be according to the ordinance and the dictates, the commands of the Torah of Yah. Yeshua is the living Torah, and our testimony must be according to the order of life in us, lively stones that flows by the power of that testimony. It must be that testimony. It cannot be something that has been created by a mind that resists Yah. We are a lively stone. We are built up a spiritual bayat, a house. When Yeshua is the cornerstone of that house, when he has laid each block in its place, it is a spiritual house. And the thing that flows from a spiritual house, in order for us to walk in the commands of Yah, we must be a part of the priesthood of Yah. We have to know how to come into his presence. And if we actually examine our life, we don't know how to come into his presence. But because he tells us how to come, with our hands lifted. We think that is not a part, or it is not very, it is not of importance, but it's of great importance. It is of great importance. It is of a dire importance. So he commands us how to come and how to offer up the spiritual offerings unto him. And we defy that. We have no conscience of us defying Yah, because our minds have become so seared we don't even comprehend that we're walking in disobedience and rebelliousness. And so our prayer life, it's of no substance. We don't even like talking to him. This is the nature of all Israel. He said a Kadosh priesthood, understanding the principles of the Torah. You have been a student, you have studied the Torah, you know how to bring the offering, you know how to present the offering. For what reason? To offer up spiritual sacrifices, any kind, know that which acceptable unto Yah by Yeshua HaMashiach. They must be acceptable, they must please Yah, he must delight in them. We must offer up spiritual offerings unto Yah. We cannot offer up a dead offering, but it must be a lively spiritual offering. Our Torah must resonate from a heart that is engaged in prayer and understand the beauty of Yah, that knows the power of his might. We can never offer up the offerings which are acceptable unto Yah, but by the power of Yeshua HaMashiach. The testimony must be in us, Yisrael. That is the power of the strength of Torah, that testimony of life. We must have that in us. And if we don't have that, we are not going to offer up any spiritual offerings or sacrifices unto Yah. And if we examine our life, we know that we don't offer that up unto the Most High. We don't offer up offerings that are lively. We offer up a dead pretense and a false action, but we must have that living testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach. And the reason we are not built into that kind of house is because we have rejected the chief cornerstone of Yah. You cannot reject the living power of Torah. You must embrace it, Yisrael, while it cuts. Well, that is the intent of it, to cut. As a mason, you must cut stones at time. That's why you have a hammer to cut stones. As a carpenter, you must cut. As a plumber, you must cut. As an electrician, you must cut. Any kind of skill that builds, you must cut. Hallelujah. And the power of this truth, it is to make sure every stone, just like the bed of Yah of Sholoman, that every stone fits perfectly right in its position, and there is no cutting. Whereby the Torah of the word spoken unto us, it should not offend, it should not cut, but we should embrace it and love it and have an affair with the truth of Yah. We are a house that must offer up the spiritual offerings unto Yah. And when we become a true bed of Yah, then there must be a life of Tphillah. I want you to hear this in the book of 1 Kings, Melchim, 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 22. There is much to this prayer. I believe that this writing in this chapter has 66 verses. I'm not going to read them all, but I want to get to the essence of this chapter. First Kings chapter 8 verse 22. It says, and then Solomon, he stood up before the altar of Yah in the presence of the congregation, the Kahal, the house, the elect, those that had come to assemble in his name. He stood up before all of them of Israel, and the first thing he did, he spread forth his hands. That is something that we are not deliberate in doing. We don't think that it is vital, but it is vital. He said the first thing he did, he spread forth his hands toward the Shema'am of Yah. He spread forth his hands unto Yah to present unto him an offering that was spiritual, an offering of life, because he had seen the power of Yah exercise among Israel to build a house whereby the Ruach of Yah would dwell in that place, whereby when a man went there to make Tphillah, that Yah would hear that man. The first thing he did, he spread forth his hands. Well, is there an example of that even in the covenant of Yah for Israel? I will read quickly this in the book of Lucas. In the book of Luke 24:50. I'm going to teach from Melechim, from First King. But it says this, as Joshua prepared to ascend, his ascension into the kingdom of Yah. It says that he led them, the Talmudim, out as far as Bethany, and he lifted up his hands and he blessed them. He barak. When there is no lifting up our hands, we can never barak Yah. We just cannot barak him. You cannot fall with supplication. He lifted up his hands unto Hashema'am and he barak. He blessed them. He bowed before them. He presented himself unto them. And this is the first thing in the spiritual house of Yah. There must be the lifting of the hands. And that's one thing that the enemy has circumvented us from doing. We are not deliberate in that, Yisrael. Not only the few of us here, but this is the phenomenon worldwide. He lifted up his hands. He lifted up his hands toward Almighty Yah. It was a statement of more than I surrender all. He lifted his hands to esteem the Most High, to barak him. You cannot offer up the spiritual offering unless you lift your hands. And we don't necessarily like to lift our hands. And we don't want to lift our hands. It is one thing of the way of Yah, his derek, the way of the process we go, how we flow in his path. It is so easy. And we as a people, we complicate it. That's why we never understand the power of the simplicity of his truth. And we began to walk astray, going our way away from Yah. This is a common man's salvation. Yisrael, his elect, those that he elected, they were common people. They had no pedigree. They were the least of all the people. They were despised. The navel cord was not even cut. So he lifted up his hands. When Joshua prepared to ascend, he lifted up his hands and he barak them. Anytime you offer up a spiritual offering or sacrifice, it must be by the raising of one's hands. Even our praise is to offer up that todah unto Yah. It must be that way. It used to be in the old assemblies, you would see the old mother, she would raise her hand, and the elders, they would raise their hands and cry out unto Yah. I know we don't think it's significant, but it is of grave importance, Yisrael. It is valuable to us. These are the simple things that cause his power to rain down on us. He goes on to say in verse 23, 1 Kings